to another art journal video. Hello there, Ceri here again with a new art journal page. Today I'm following the quote, "Always face the sunshine and the shadows will fall behind you" by Audrey Hepburn. Here I'm just adding some acrylic paint to the background of the page, some blue for the sky and some green for the ground. Here the acrylic background has dried and I've added in some guidelines for my figure using an inktense white pencil, which is really useful because you can wipe out the lines with a wet baby wipe if you don't like what you've drawn. So I'm also drawing in some sun rays as guidelines. Okay, so I'm moving on to the fun bit of adding some colour to the page. I'm using yellow and orange to denote sun rays, and it's acrylic paint again, which I'm mixing with a bit of white to make it more opaque so that the blue doesn't show through too much. Off camera here, I'm just mixing in some grey tones with white and black, which I'm going to use to block in the shadows that fall behind my figure. Here I'm actually blocking in the girl now with a nice skin toned matte acrylic paint, which needs a good shake before I start using it. Time to chop. Here I've selected some nice coloured card and papers which I will use for the sun rays. I've got some gold card here which will really shine and sparkle on the page. So now all my mosaics are chopped up and collected on the page. I'm using some gel medium which I'm going to apply with a palette knife, and I'm just going to do pretty small sections at a time, except on the sun I think I do a little bit more. But I'm going to apply these mosaic tiles so that they're not all bunched up next to the same colour and in quite a regular sort of formation. Now I've finished adding in the yellow sun rays, I've moved on to the orange rays, and here I've chosen some, this was a jelly print that I did on deli paper I think, or copy paper, and I'm again just cutting it into strips, and then I shall cut those back down into squares. And I wanted the slightly darker colour so that you can see the difference in the different sun rays. Here is a piece of my own art. This is Sassy Seaside Centauri, and that's for sale in my shop if you're interested, and it just gives me a nice selection of orange colours. It was a printout that I hadn't got the dimensions right for, so therefore I get to reuse it. Okay, so the page is taking shape now, and I'm adding in the mosaics for the shadow side of the figure, and this provides a really nice bit of contrast on the page with the bright yellows and oranges on the other side. I've chosen some dark pattern papers. They're somewhat warm greys, but I've just split them up into groups so that I have the lighter ones over the lighter areas and the darker ones over the darker areas of shadow. And it's all about degrees of contrast in this particular part of the process, because I don't want too much contrast in each of the rays, but I do want contrast between the rays, so it's important to separate the mosaic pieces out carefully. So it's time to colour in the figure now, and the first thing I'm going to do is block in some areas of colour on the figure. So the idea on this page is that I want to show a little bit of the quote in the technique that I'm using, and the quote is always face the sunshine and the shadows will fall behind you. And when you want to create form and art, you use shadow and light in a similar way. So on the side where the light is hitting, you want your colours to be much lighter in tone, so you might add white or lighter colours. And on the side of the figure where the light isn't hitting, or where it's in shadow, you'll use darker colours. And there are different ways of darkening your colours, and in this example I'm using black and white to show the form. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the video now, and you've seen me create a page using acrylic paints, inktense pencils and pattern papers to create a mosaic effect on the background, which is quite dramatic, I think, and then inktense pencils, which are really fun to activate and then shade with. You can see me here just touching up some final details, and I've darkened the shadow layer by adding subsequent layers to build up the colour on the page. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's inspired you to have a bit of a look at form with your art, and maybe have a go with some mosaics in your art journal. Please like, comment and subscribe to this channel, all of which will be greatly appreciated.